that we cannot go back in time. Now, whether because we can't go back in time, that's why there is the limitation of the speed of light at 200 or 300,000 kilometers per second. There is a limitation. Because, said Einstein, if the speed of light can exceed 300,000 kilometers per second, we would then be in a position to return back in time. And then we have what is commonly known as the grandfather paradox. If we can return in time, it means what? That if I now observe my grandfather and grandmother thinking of maybe marrying, and I can disturb that because I'm there, and let's say I succeed in preventing their marriage because I can return in time, that in effect would say that I would never be born. Consequently, if I can't be born, I could not nullify or prevent the marriage of my great-grandfather or grandfather or grandmother. Consequently, if I couldn't, I would be born. And if I am born, then I can. And if I can, then I'm not born. This is commonly referred to as the grandfather paradox. And because of that paradox, Einstein came to the conclusion that one cannot return in time. This is not so from a Kabbalistic point of view. Scientists today are beginning to explore the possibilities that maybe Einstein was not right. Now, if from a Kabbalistic point of view, one can return in time, and the Zohar provides us with an instance where one returns in time, if he knows how. He can literally return back in time. I don't know how many of you attend services on Shabbat, but one of the most insignificant parts of the service on Shabbat, in fact, I know it's so insignificant because very few people pay attention to it, and it's been so cut up into pieces and decimated by the various aspects of Judaism, and I'm not here to be judgmental, whether they are correct or incorrect. However, one of the most insignificant parts of the Sabbath morning service is the reading of the Torah. That's the time where if you're in an Orthodox temple, there's the time you take your break, talk to your neighbor, discuss maybe the stock market of the past week, or some very other interesting topics. This is prevalent, I would say, 99% of Orthodox temples. If you get to the conservative reform, well, they had their own rules. Maybe we don't have to go through the entire portion or whatever. What is the significance to begin with? Why do we even have to listen to it? Sometimes it's even a drag. If you get into like the portion of this week's section discussing an outmoded temple, the tabernacle, which has long since gone out of existence. Although if you saw Raiders of the Lost Ark, that was where he got it from, Spielberg, and I can tell you that's where he got it from. From that very insignificant portion, because that's where the tabernacle, that was the only purpose of the tabernacle and the ark, tap energy. That's what it's all about. Now, the only way the Zohar says that we are capable of tapping energy is by returning to the instant in time when that energy appeared in the universe. And therefore, states the Zohar, with a meditation, which I won't go into now, we'll be discussing meditation. With a proper meditation, via the channel of the reading of that instrument called the scroll, without getting into why that scroll can provide me with an opportunity that I must return in time to the time of the revelation of the Torah on Mount Sinai. At that time, I can tap into the energy that was transmitted. That revelation of the scroll on Mount Sinai was not significant, but for only one reason. It provided a transfusion of the force of energy, things that we all feel somehow, even on a physical level, tired. And so when we return back in time, that reading of the scroll is the method by which I return in time. And I am at that moment physically, mentally, consciously tapping that energy that appeared 3,400 years ago. What does the Zohar do with the grandfather paradox? If, in fact, in a split second, I have traveled back in time 3,400 years. In a split second. And I'm traveling faster than the speed of light. And the answer provided by Rabbi Isaac Lurie, who understood this concept and certainly did not agree with Einstein's conclusion that we are limited in the speed of light factor, because when you wish to transfer back in time, you must achieve another level of consciousness. In other words, in your present state of being, and all of us are at a certain level of consciousness, there are some people who can see the future. There are some people who can see things others do not even dream about. We're all familiar with people of that kind. See things that others do not. But the reason that these people have achieved another level, another sporadic level of consciousness. Consequently, this child that was born of this grandfather, in the course of the lifetime of this individual, for this individual to travel back in time, must achieve an elevation to another grade or higher level of consciousness. Consequently, once that has been achieved, and that is the reason for traveling back in time, that grandfather is no longer his grandfather. The level of consciousness at birth and the ultimate elevation to another level of consciousness, you're talking of another being, another consciousness, another individual. Then his paradox is false. You can travel back in time, but you can only travel back in time when you have elevated yourself above the level that you came into this world with. You have achieved another level of consciousness. You have not remained in the same one you came into this world with. If you remain at that level, no matter what that level is, you cannot travel back in time. But once you have elevated to another level of consciousness, you can go back in time. Once you've gone just one level above the level of consciousness that you entered this world, you can travel back in time. But then bear in mind that the grandfather and grandmother is not yours anymore. You have now achieved another level. You have left behind that parallel level of existence. You are now on another level of existence. As the saying goes, there are parallel levels of universes. There are so many galaxies, different things that go on, different levels. So the individual can travel back in time, provided he has achieved an elevation to another state of consciousness. Then the art of achieving another level of consciousness is what the purpose of Kabbalah is. Does that mean you become more spiritual? Well, I know a lot of good people who could never think of doing harm to anyone. Are they spiritual? What is your definition of spiritual? Are they good people? Spirituality means good. Well, no, they are spiritual people. But from a Kabbalistic point of view, good people are good people. But then again, why are they here in the first place? If they came down as good people, you mean they have no objective anymore? Just to do good? Then they are of a better character. They are not good because they worked to elevate themselves from the gutter, from a life of existence of stealing, murdering, and then one day said, well, wait a second, I'm going to put a stop to all that. That is spirituality from a Kabbalistic point of view. But if you're good from the very beginning, and there has never been the other side, there has never been another force that says, kill. What has been accomplished? What has been the purpose? If not maybe just to do some good in the universe, but that is not the objective of any individual within this universe. We have all returned not into a universe that is full of determinism. It's all been predetermined, as Newtonian classical physics indicates. Everything is causal. Nothing new happens. What happened now has stemmed from a prior cause. Not so for humanity. Not so for humanity. The only one, or the only living entity in this universe that is not governed and bound by determinism is the human individual. Every other life entity in this universe is predetermined. It's predetermined. There is absolutely no free will. The individual, human being, has that opportunity, and that's why he's here. Consequently, when we speak of spirituality and we speak of cosmic consciousness, we are speaking now of another level. There are 7 sphirot in our universe. 7 levels, 7 basic levels of consciousness, and consequently, as we will discuss in our section of astrology, why there are specifically 7 planets. Not by chance. There isn't anything in this universe that we cannot explain. There isn't a question that you might have of this universe that you can't have an answer in the Kabbalah. It's got to be there because the Zohar was revealed to a man who was born, as Rabbi Isaac Luria said, all the 7 levels of cosmic consciousness. And that is the only reason that I think the Zohar has validity. It encompasses all intelligence. For me to connect with all of those levels requires effort, requires an elevation. That is an objective, and that is something that we can achieve. Not only that we can achieve, that we must achieve, according to Rabbi Isaac Luria. If not, we have simply come into this world in a robotic level of personal universe and have never gone beyond the robotic state. And that is what the golem is about. The golem can provide things that the human being cannot, supposedly. The golem and high tech, which is the golem, incidentally, I don't know how true this is, but the fathers of computer science, I'm told, are all descendants of the great Rabbi Loeb, who created the golem. Very interesting. So from a reincarnation point of view, that's beautiful. In fact, I'd like to consider Einstein the perfect robot. Do you know why he was the perfect robot? Because he was a channel for information that wasn't new. Relativity is not something that did not exist before Einstein's revelation. He was merely providing a deeper insight into the structure of the universe. He did not create anything new. In fact, when it came to the new concept of quantum physics, he suddenly became a religious man. And the expression, he can't believe that God plays dice with the universe. Meaning what? Meaning you can't observe a universe depending on changeable factors. But there is a changeable factor. A changeable factor that is totally confusing all of science. There is constant change in that little atom. They discover new changes all the time. And we asked originally, where did it come from? My answer was human activity. And that means whenever you see a photon, and I don't want to go into physics, but a photon is a new concept. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it should be there, and it's not there. Because it all depends on what you are going to decide today in your activity. whether it will be the transmission and transfer of positive energy or negative energy. That, until the actual manifestation, culmination of your thought to do good or do bad, everything is held in abeyance. Things are status quo until man injects that his own personal energy intelligence, which can alter the state of the universe. And when we experience through it all, not we experience, but when we observe chaos in space, from a Kabbalistic point of view, in the Zohar, in Parshat Truma, for those of you who would like to read up on it, that's Zohar 2, page 147b, I believe it is, but it's Parshat Truma. Yes, you can find it there too. The Zohar makes the point of indicating that space and star wars are the direct result of human activity. And the time will come when there will be complete order in the universe as well. Because for all the disorder, and for all of the explosions in the universe, and for all of the collapsing of universes, in the final analysis, the 7 planets have remained. Everything else disappears. Stars, meteors, asteroids, everything disappears. These 7, these 7, there are 10, if you want to be particular. These 7, and when we get to astrology, we will discuss why 7 and 10. These 7 are immutable, and they will remain as long as there is a physical universe. And the control of these celestial bodies, according to Zohar, is completely dependent upon man's action. Okay? Now we're kind of getting an idea both from a physics point of view and from a Kabbalah point of view that we can control this universe. And maybe laser weaponry and Star Wars defensive rating are not things that put us into a feeling of helplessness. Maybe we are really in control. Maybe we can be in control. And the theme of this seminar is going to be how we can be in control. How, according to the Zohar, the war of Armageddon, Milchemet Gog uMagog, and it is not by chance if you know the word Agag is a Greek word as well. It's not really, the root of the word is not Greek, but for we modern people, we would rather depend maybe on a Greek derivation rather than opposed to a Hebrew derivation because we're not too familiar with the Hebrew language. Agag is mind. Mind. The word means mind. And the Zohar says that the final war, if it is deemed necessary in the cosmos, is going to be the war of minds. Not lasers, not any other form of physical weaponry. The war of minds. That means In the age of enlightenment, and that's why we at the center feel that the time has come to prepare people for that age, which is already here, when we will feel helpless. I think it is beyond our control to control, that the method of control will now become available through the Aleph, which is that system. So we're going to learn how to make use of that powerful weapon, both for the tapping of energy, as the art at one time was that physical source of tapping solar energy, as is described incidentally concerning the building of the tabernacle. And Solomon, when he built the Holy Temple, built it with the same idea in mind of how to tap not only physical solar energy, but more importantly, the internal aspect of all energy, intelligence, energy intelligence, and that every single individual in this age of enlightenment will be in that position to make use of that awesome power called the Force. Does that mean then, for those who would like to make use of that energy to control the entire world, make other nations subservient, as the Egyptians, as I mentioned, the Kabbalah connection, that was the power once of mighty Egypt, control of the cosmos from a negative point of view. And always remember, positive will always rule and dominate negativity because of the old rule of cause and effect. From a Kabbalistic point of view, the positive force came into being first. All that comes first is cause, and all that follows is effect. If that is the case, then we have something else to fear. We will suddenly be in control of a method, of a system by which maybe we can enslave our neighbor, enslave some of the people we don't care for. Who knows, that might even be far worse than the way things seem to be going in its present state. Who says that's a better idea? Well, it's not a question of a better idea, it's inevitable. Whether it's the center or someone else, the revelation of this power, declares Rabbi Shimon, will be revealed to the entire humankind of this universe. So that's inevitable. But let us return to the question. Does that mean that evil can also rule and dominate as good? And so we come to another concept in Kabbalah, which is dealt with in Kabbalah for the layman, and that is the aspect of the chosen people. They say the Jew is the chosen people. For all intents and purposes, I think we probably would have been better off the last 2,000 years not being referred to as a chosen people. We might have been chosen for destruction, but I don't think that's what the Bible really meant. Because that seems to be the sole purpose of the Jew. How much more punishment can he endure? And so I mentioned in Kabbalah for the layman But the aspect and concept of the chosen people was a complete misinterpretation and almost a fraudulent commentary on the expression chosen people. In fact, I know most Jews despise the fact that we can even refer to them as chosen people. They're right. The Bible's an instrument of goodwill towards men has created a fragmentation right there. One is better than the other. Aren't we all the same and equal in the eyes of the law? The Bible says poor people are the same as rich people. Look, can anyone tell me where on this beautiful planet Earth do we experience everyone as being equal? Even the rabbis think maybe we're even better maybe than the others. Where don't you see segregation? Where don't you find the degradation of some in someone's life? It's rampant. In fact, to find the reverse seems to be almost impossible. Where is this concept we're all the same? Is that the message of the chosen people? Let's see who sits at the eastern wall, like he said in Fiddler on the Roof. Remember Tevye? He was hoping one day he would be able to sit with all the great people at the eastern wall. Even that, the eastern wall becomes so important that that wall dominates our life. A wall. This is religion. Doesn't sound plausible, doesn't sound even right. And therefore the answer of chosen people never meant to indicate fragmentation, upper and lower. If the first precept of that Bible was interconnectedness, interrelationship, that we're all affected by everyone, that no one is more important than the other, like the layer of an onion, as Rabbi Ashok says. That upper level of the onion, the outer layer of the onion, which is the highest point of that onion, also is the lowest. Do we really believe it? Well, the Bible tries to at least inculcate us with that idea that there is equality in the world. But how can you speak of equality and speak of chosen people at the same time? And so, the Zohar makes this, again, startling revelation that the Hebrew word is Anshe Segula, as I mentioned in the book, from the Hebrew vowel, Segol. And so those of you who know how to read auras of people, you know the word. Segol is beautiful, right? But that's a color. We'll leave colors alone for a moment. Segol, the vowel Segol in the Hebrew language is 2 dots and 1 in the middle, but below the 2, 3 dots. The force of the atom, the force of the universe. Right? Left. And another concept called central. What is the central force? Well, getting as little information from our physicists, I'll tell you the neutron really has no meaning in the atom. But that's a little help, I guess. The neutron has an energy intelligence. It talks. It's alive. And it's that force that keeps that atom, or should keep the atom, in a harmonious position. Don't split the atom, because all you're doing is splitting the universe. The atom is beautiful. See, on the atoms are right here. No negative effect. It's beautiful. It's a total and perfect harmony because it contains a neutron. What is that neutron? The aspect of the central column. And what is the central column? What is this force that the Jew was chosen to provide the world with? Called restriction. What is restriction? What is restriction? I always say whenever I travel El Al, we have many Israelis on the plane. If you ever listen to an Israeli conversation, you know what you hear all the time? First of all, if there are three people there, you hear three people talking. Okay? Furthermore, the most beautiful word I hear constantly repeated is rega. Do all of you know what the rega means?
Yeah, wait a minute.
Wait a minute. A moment. Now, this fellow is talking, and the other one's listening. And every fourth word or every seventh word is rega, like he thinks the other guy wants to interrupt him. And he says, no, wait a second, let me finish. The other fellow didn't say a word. But the Israeli, for whatever metaphysical reason, always uses that word rega. Rega. And there's no reason. You tell someone to wait a minute, let me finish my thought, only upon an interruption. But the Israeli has the power to say rega, even though no one has any intention of interrupting. It's beautiful. I used to listen to that. I used to ask myself, why do you say rega more? I mean, I'm listening. Even if I listen to somebody, he'll say rega maybe 70 times in 5 minutes. And I didn't have any intention of interrupting what he was going to tell me. Observe it. You just listen to an Israeli conversation. That word rega. What the Israeli doesn't understand is he has captured the most important force in the world without even knowing it. But like he doesn't even know why there's a Star of David. He doesn't even know why there's a Hebrew language. Only that, I guess if you're Jewish, you speak Hebrew. That word rega, and the intent of rega, means wait a minute. The Zohar tells us when the world was created, or before the world was created, the force, that force that created the world, was going to create the world with what we call in Hebrew, midat hadin, with judgment. And what does that mean? That means simply this, that if one was going to steal, and he did steal, his hand came off. He'd never steal again. Immediate justice. Someone murdered, he drops dead. Justice. For every action, there was an immediate reaction. But the force saw that the world could not exist under those circumstances. And so, the expression in the Zohar is the force created this universe. When I say universe, I'm not speaking merely of planet Earth. He created this entire, I should say, there are 200,000 galaxies. Now, I know they have, I think, found maybe 8 or 9. Would you know how many galaxies have been discovered? Okay. She missed. All right. 200,000 galaxies, according to the Zohar. 200,000 galaxies. We're familiar with one, meanwhile, but we know there must be some others. Before all of this was created, he realized that the world could not be created with judgment, and therefore he injected. Judgment means action, reaction, positive, negative. No. There was a need for midat harachamim. What does that mean? Compassion, mercy. It was the only way this world could exist, which means that if someone stole judgment, wait a minute, rega, hold on. This is the force in the universe that the Kabbalah is going to bring to the forefront in the ensuing years, the immediate future. This is the neutron. That word rega. Wait a minute. That wait a minute has an infinite amount of implications. But primarily, it means the injection of space-time. At one time, there was no such thing as space-time. Wait a minute. Which means action and reaction, which should be instantaneous, came to a complete halt. And the injection of restriction at the Big Bang, when you read Kabbalah for the layman, the Big Bang was the injection of space-time. Wait a minute. Time. Rega, give me time. That means if I do something wrong, let me correct it. Give me time. Give me time. That revelation of that central column force. The Jew is given that force, provided he made use of it. He could then control the universe. But if the Jew, as he has done for 2,000 years, did not show compassion, did not inject the rega, wait a minute, restriction, whatever he wants, that's what he's going to have. No compassion. Then he will bring this universe into chaos, because he is the only nation that builds or destroys this universe. Holocaust, inquisitions, all other forms of inhumanity is merely a portrayal of the lack of that rega, restriction. This is what the universe is looking. This is what all peoples of the universe, when they turn to the Jew, either in hatred or in sympathy, have looked to those people and who they are. My opinion, and I have said this publicly, the Jew is those who make manifest the rega, the concept of restriction. And one who does not make manifest rega has to be brought into question whether they are Jewish. Because Jew doesn't mean you're born from a Jewish mother, but as the Talmud tells us, we will need Elijah the prophet to determine who is really Jewish and who is not. Because just from one act of intercourse, which can take a half of a second, that can happen with anybody. Who is actually Jewish and who is not will require Elijah the prophet. But I state here now that one who does not express that aspect of rega, passion, is not Jewish. The Jewish nation is Am Segula. That is a Jew, whatever color. That is what's happened. And that is what Rabbi Ashlag refers to. When he says in the time of the age of Aquarius, the non-Jew will have that same obligation. What does he mean by the non-Jew? Because who is Jewish and who is not, we assume. And we cannot determine who is or who is not by the physical expressions. The mother is Jewish, and we assume the child is Jewish. However, there's no guarantee that the mother of this mother and the mother of that mother were Jewish. But we do not delve deeply. But I will give you one indication who is not Jewish. And that is the one who does not express rega. The Jew who does not express compassion and has no patience and perseverance for someone else. But his needs come now. Has to be brought into question of their Jewish identification. Consequently, when returning to the question, if this knowledge, which is beyond my control, which is beyond anyone's control, irrespective of my unique position, which I pride myself, of being the wrath and scorn of most of the establishment. It's unique, notorious maybe, but unique. It is a foregone conclusion. I did not bring that knowledge to the world. I may have brought it in the form of an English language and explained it maybe. That information was established in 1922 when Rabbi Ashlag literally opened up every door that once contained a bolt and a lock to it that prevented the mass from getting into those portals of Kabbalah. That was open long before I came on the scene. And so there's nothing that's going to prevent this surge of making use of the power of the Aleph. However, as we discussed before, in the aspect of returning in time, one must achieve a higher level of consciousness, cosmic consciousness. So I can assure you that while this power could be put to evil use, the one expressing rega, expressing restriction for himself, not for someone else, compassion, not for himself, but for someone else, will never, according to the Zohar, fall under the domination and influence of the evil column or left top. So that is our assurance. It is a built-in safety valve for all future Star Wars.